So I'm just about to jump onto a call with one of our past clients, Zoe. She's a social media manager based in the UK. She joined us, give or take, about 6 months ago. She joined us at a position where she didn't know what she didn't know. She wasn't sure what to do. She's very much stuck in that plateau of her business. She didn't know how to progress and how to grow. But more importantly, the problem she was facing, she had multiple offers, multiple deliverables, multiple price points. Because of that reason, she was confused and she just couldn't really move forward. Her Instagram was going well, but it wasn't really picking up. It wasn't getting growth and it wasn't generating leads for her business. Fast forward 6 months, we have pretty much doubled or maybe just over doubled her business. She's earning more money. She's got financial freedom. As she'll explain in the video, she's at a stage where she's confident with her system. She has clarity around what she's doing. But again, importantly, she has narrowed down her offer to one main offer. It took time to get to that stage, but she has one main offer she now focuses on. It's a high ticket offer. It gets great results for her, great results for her clients. And it is essentially what has allowed her to scale. Her Instagram is starting to pop off. She's got content going viral. She's got great formats, great predictability with that. And again, she's generating leads for her social media management business. And also she now has the opportunity to do coaching if she wants to. She's actually getting people reaching out, asking for coaching, asking for support, which she never had in the beginning. So, when you work with us, it's not just a case of building a coaching offer or consulting. We can help you with your agency service and scaling that to a certain level, and also help you build your personal brand to the point where you then have that opportunity to sell a coaching offer or sell a consulting offer if that's what you want to do. And that is essentially the stage that Zoe is at right now. So without any further ado, I'll move on, pass on to Zoe, and we'll get started with the interview.
So I'm Zoe. I'm a social media manager, also digital ads manager for mainly beauty and wellness businesses. So I manage social media accounts for lots of different businesses, not strictly beauty businesses at the moment, but majority are beauty. My journey. So I only went freelance literally about just over a year ago. And I didn't have a niche then, wasn't even just specializing in just ads or social media. I was just kind of freeballing it, just like starting up and just seeing what I was drawn to, because I think it's probably best to start out a bit broader and then go a bit more niche as time goes on, rather than start too niche.
Yeah.
So then I was probably freelancing for about 6 months. And I just hit a point where I thought, I've got no niche. I don't really know where to go. I'm not enjoying all of my work at the moment because my clients are kind of from everywhere. And I enjoy some bits, I don't enjoy some bits, but I really just didn't know where to go with it. So I remember, Harry, on our first call, you were like, so what are you struggling with? And I was like, I don't know. I honestly don't know what I'm struggling with. And you were like, that's often people's struggles, that they don't actually know what they don't know. So then I spoke with you. I just started to niche down a little bit more. Do you want me to go into detail kind of the last 6 months as well?
Yeah, can do.
So then we had our call, and then I decided to choose a niche, and you were just like, just what do you enjoy? What do you really like? And I was like, I'm vegan. I like sustainable side of things. So I was like, right, I'm going to target vegan brands. So started targeting all of my messaging towards that, started following and reaching out to loads of vegan brands, sustainable brands. And it went okay. I felt like I was really just pushing against the tide in some way, that I was working really hard, putting a lot of content out there, really trying to tailor it. And I just wasn't getting anything back from it. And I could see everyone else in the program being like, oh, I just got this win and this and that. And I was like, oh God, I just feel like I'm getting nothing. Like I'm not even booking any calls. And then something just kind of switched in my brain and thought, just change niche. And I really enjoy the beauty and wellness side of things. So I was like, let's maybe pivot down there. And as soon as I made that change, everything just started falling into place. And everything that I'd learned from going down the vegan route, I'd been applying to the beauty and wellness route, but I was booking calls. Just everything was opening up. People were following me back. People were actually opening up a conversation with me. But yeah, that was a very long-winded answer.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, of course, no. It's good to give the detail, because again, there's people watching this who, again, are in the same situation. They don't know what a niche is, don't know what the problems are, and kind of like you said, you know, you can have support, you can be doing the right actions, but if it's not aligned with, you know, the right niche, the right offer from the beginning, doesn't matter what you do, it's not going to work. And that's kind of what happened with yourself. And it was probably, I'm not sure how long it took, maybe a month and a half, 2 months in, I think, probably when you made that transition around about that time. Because I remember it, you know, again, I remember very clearly when you made that switch, and it was like a light bulb moment. It just kind of made that difference. Then we started making changes to the content strategy. You have that format of content you do, which now has been sort of like going viral, kind of blowing up for you, getting some good results. And it's all the sort of small changes we made that, you know, ultimately made a difference. But aside then from switching niche, aside from finding like really, you know, your niche, your place, and what works best for you, what other change or changes do you think you've made that have allowed you to, you know, book the calls, get more clients, and grow the business?
I think it's the whole just choose one offer and go with that. And to be honest, out of the 6 months, it was probably only after like 4.5 months that I really nailed it down and really understood it in my head, because obviously it took like a month and a half for me to change niche, blah, blah, blah. Then I was chatting to other people in the industry, which I think is really important, by chatting to other people and seeing their needs and what they struggle with, to then keep tailoring your offer. Because I know other social media managers in the space, they offer, you know, 3 different packages, they offer this, they offer that. And I thought, I know Harry's telling me to choose one offer, but I was like, but do I do that? Other people in the industry aren't. Not that I was doubting you, Harry, but you know. And then I think I spoke to Shog, who's another coach, and just what we discussed just clicked in my mind. And then all of a sudden I really understood what the transformation of my offer was, and why I've only got one offer. I feel like is so important, because I don't want to, you know, offer anybody else in the industry any more or any less than what is in that package. And I truly believe that. But I think before that, I didn't believe that, because I hadn't truly nailed it down. So now I've fully nailed down my package, my one and only offer. I fully just believe in it, and I can sell it so much confidence on my stories. I can talk about the transformation of it when I'm on a call with somebody. I think if you truly believe in it, then other people can tell that as well. And I can, you know, give reasons. Oh, like, why don't you have a smaller offer? And I'm like, because what's the point of me selling you an offer for £400 if I know it's not going to work for your business? So the one offer thing has definitely been a big thing for me, but I think sometimes you just have to learn it by yourself.
No, 100%. Again, it's a very foreign, a very different way of thinking that most people don't talk about. Because you're right, you know, a lot of social media managers or agencies, they have multiple offers, multiple packages, multiple price points, different deliverables, different services, different people. Like, it's just they try and do everything for everyone. And it works to a certain degree for some people, but as you're finding, eventually you just hit a point where you can't scale, you can't go beyond it, because you just don't know what you're doing. You don't know what's working, what's not working. And, you know, the whole point of that one offer, that one, you know, that philosophy of that sort of one thing you're doing, it's not even just about the offer itself. It's also about realizing and figuring out that when you're doing content, when you're doing outreach, when you're doing your sales calls, it's actually figuring out what's working and what isn't. If you're doing too many things at once, you don't actually know, you can't track what works and what doesn't. And that's why the one thing works so well, especially for someone at your stage. That's why it's been beneficial. So yeah, I mean, that's a very big thing. It's important, but it does take time to figure it out. You know,
it does. And I think also once you've figured out your offer, your content makes so much more sense. Like, even if I had a blank page in front of me with no ideas, I could probably just come up with like 5 on the spot, just knowing fully who I've spoken to, what my offer is, what issues they've had, you know, how my offer can help. And you can just come up with so many different content ideas from that. But if you're not really sure what you're offering, it's hard to also create content around that.
Yeah, I agree. You hit it down on the head with that one. You know, again, it's the offer, but then the offer then leads into your content, which leads into your lead gen, leads into your sales process. It's a cycle, all kind of feeds into each other.
Completely.
So it's a really good point. Really good point. So let's say you had the chance to go back to Zoe from 6 months ago and give her some advice, something you've learned over the past 6 months. Again, I know we kind of mentioned a few things already, but what do you think would be like that number one piece of advice you would give Zoe from 6 months ago to solve all the problems she was facing back then?
Yeah, I would say engaging with other accounts in your that are your ideal clients is so important, because especially if you're a smaller account wanting growth. Following different accounts that are your ideal clients, liking their posts. One tip as well is adding them to your favorites. So you can just click on favorites and you can just engage with those accounts every single day. And figuring out what messages work with different accounts. So it's just a kind of trial and error process with not cold messaging, because you always say like you want them to have interacted with you or followed you back or liked one of your posts. Like I never cold message, but when I do message, it's good to try out loads of different opening messages to them, see what works, see what doesn't, so you can tailor it and see what works in the future. But I would say definitely engaging with other accounts. I think I would say 80% of my calls come from me following an account or me liking a post and then reaching out to them. And at the beginning, like I was doing it a tiny bit, but I wasn't doing it religiously. And then as soon as I did, that's when you start to get the growth, especially when you get pieces of content that are going viral and are doing well. Actually looking at who's liking your posts and who's engaging with you is so important.
100%. And I think that once all of those things clicked for you, the offer, the lead gen process, the content, it's like it all just kind of compounds and helps itself. It helps each other. And it's such a big point that a lot of people again forget, is that at the start of your business, in the earlier stages, you don't always have the luxury of people finding you and reaching out to you. There's certain things you can do, of course, to increase that, but ultimately you can't control it. And there's a lot of factors. The algorithm, other people posting, competitors, so on, that impacts that. So being more proactive, reaching out to people, starting those conversations as you have, is what's allowed you to then grow the business. And you've also had inbound as well. It's not saying you haven't. You have had.
Of course.
It's just having that combination of both has given you, I guess, has given you more predictability, more certainty in the clients, the lead gen process. And of course, has allowed you to scale ultimately. So one quick question. So I can't remember what the situation was, but I remember that obviously your current offer, your sort of service-based offer is doing well. That's growing, it's scaling. If I remember rightly, do you also have people reaching out and asking about like coaching and like support? You've had that people reaching out for that as well, haven't you now?
Yeah, I've had a few people reaching out for that, but I'm kind of in the very early process of setting a coaching program up with another business woman who I kind of know personally. But having been on this program and, because as well, you speak to so many other coaches, not just, done for you service. And people like social media managers. I've heard so much coaching advice that I feel like very confident going into this space now, because obviously I've been on the other side of it being a social media manager, but I've had, like, I always think at the end of the program, probably like 5 months in, probably like a month left, that when we were on group calls, I could like tell what your answer was going to be to a question. But I think that's really good, because it just shows that you've really passed that knowledge on to me. Somebody would ask a question, I'm like, I know exactly how Harry's going to answer this. So I feel really confident going into the coaching space now. But when I first started, Liv was like, Zoe, have you ever thought of coaching? I was like, no. I was like, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. And then as time went on, I kept telling her about, I think I had like 2 inquiries in like 2 days about coaching, and Liv was like, are you sure? And I was like,
No, it's great. I think that's, again, a really good point, is that, part of what we do, part of a good coaching program is not just giving you, the actionable plug and play stuff to do and work on. It's also teaching you how to think for yourself, how to learn, how to take decisions and do things on your own, your own 2 feet, essentially. And that's a great thing for me to hear, is I love the fact that if someone asks me a question, you kind of know what I'm going to say. I love that because it means that, like you said, we've gotten across a message, we've taught you what we need to, and then you're comfortable and confident in doing things on your own. That's exactly what we want. We don't want people to have to rely on us for 20 years. So we want you to be able to go out there on your own and do things yourself. So that's a really good thing to hear. And what do you think then for yourself then personally? Obviously, you've had success in the program. You've doubled your business, I think, give or take, maybe a bit more in terms of the actual numbers. But why do you think then you've had the success? Because like you said, first 2 months, obviously it was hard, it was difficult. Eventually it started to work. So what do you think yourself, you've done specifically, whether it's a habit, a routine, just anything you've done that's helped you and allowed you to then have the success inside the program?
I think it was coming on the group calls, but then asking, you to review my content, and then you would give me a content idea, and then I would go away, do the content idea. Next week, I would show you the content idea, then would just keep doing it like that. And I think being proactive about that, and, some people might be scared to, put their Instagram in and have an audit every single week. But, I just think I had no shame and was like, give me an audit every single week, have a look at this and have a look at this post. And you're like, oh, maybe swap these 2 slides around, or maybe reword this way next time. And it was just that constant little improvements each week that I think have just added up over time. Rather it being one specific thing, I think it is just the tiny little changes that have just really added up. I would say probably that the most.
So essentially it's that feedback loop. It's doing something, asking for help, taking your advice, implementing, asking for help, getting feedback, and that's how you make success. That's how you get results. And kind of, again, like you said, it's not you're making one big change that creates one big outcome. It's the small individual components of a system that, when you compound and put them all together, that is then what then creates the outcome. And that's a perfect example of it. That's why we have the group calls, why we do those things, for that reason. And you, again, are the perfect example, the perfect student, let's say, that's proactive and takes action. That's why you got results, and that's how it works. And so that's good to know. Now, I guess last sort of 2 questions. The first part to it is, then you invest in a program, you've had a result, obviously, in terms of the business aspect. I know you just said you're looking for a new flat at the moment. So what impact has this had then on the personal level, whether that's sort of lifestyle, in terms of where you're living, or I don't know, but on like a personal level, what impact has the program then had, and what has it allowed you to perhaps start doing more of?
I think it's allowed me to take bigger risks and just have more confidence, because you guys are there for support. And I feel like I can confidently handle things now because it's been the 6 months. But I think whilst I was on the program, I probably just felt more confident to make bigger decisions, because I knew that I had you guys there for a little bit of advice. And if I had certain contracts come through and I just didn't know what to do with it, I'd speak to Liv or I'd speak to Harrison, and I think it would just give me that confidence, which was really nice. Obviously, more financial freedom, just not having to worry week by week about money has been so nice, because obviously when you do make the big investment at the start, I think I rang my friend after I was on the train to Liverpool, and I was ringing my flatmate I don't know if I've made a mistake here, but I've just spent so much money. And she was like, if you think it's the right decision. I was like, yeah, I think it is, but there's also a part of you that's like, but what if it isn't? I've just spent so much money. And then, as a few months went on, I was like, yeah, it's a big investment, but the financial freedom that it's given me now is insane. When I look back at me 6 months ago, or especially a year ago, when I was just over a year ago, I quit my job at a marketing agency, and I was on 18 grand a year, which you definitely couldn't live on now, the cost of living crisis. But when I look at the financial freedom that I have now, and I don't have to worry, week by week about, food shops and stuff like that, that just has made such a big difference, just mentally.
Yeah, 100%. And again, you've hit a good point there, which is, for you to have that big result, you sometimes have to take a big risk in a sense. You know, you have to take a big action to then get a big result.
Mhm.
You know, and that's obviously part of the investment. Part of high ticket is that's the whole point. Is you invest big, you get bigger returns.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great point. Last question then from myself, and obviously then we can wrap up because I know we're a bit over on time. But last question for me then is, you obviously decided to invest in yourself 6 months ago. Again, give or take. Why? You know, what was it that made you decide at that moment in time that that was the moment you had to invest in yourself? If you could say to someone else who's in that same position, like, what was it in your mind that said, you know what, Zoe, now is the time you have to do something. Now is the time to take action.
I think it was when I touched on this, is when I got to the point where I was like, I really don't know what I don't know. So I don't know what book to read. I don't know who to talk to, because I just honestly don't know where I'm going. And I feel like if you're in that position where you just have no clue, and you could take 10 different directions, you're not sure which one to take.
Yeah.
You're not sure what you should be changing, or I think it's when you've reached your capacity and you know that you have to use somebody else's knowledge and use their experience, because you get to that with like everything that you do. You need to lean on other people. And I think if you're just at that position where it's just kind of a cloud and you don't know where you're going, I think that's when you know it's time to invest, because people have got more experience than you and more knowledge. They've spoken to more people in the exact same situation as you. So they're obviously going to know how to deal with that way better. So that's when I think it's a perfect time to invest.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, again, great point, great message, and a good reminder for those who might be on the fence, you know, to doing something that if you're not sure what you're doing, you're in that cloud, essentially, like you said, now's probably the time to do something. So yeah, really good point. Well, look, thanks very much for your time. Like I said, I don't want to keep it much longer, so thanks so much for your time. I do appreciate it. Where I will obviously put your details below the YouTube video, but just so everyone knows, where's the best place to find you if they want to ask questions? Where's the best place to reach out?
So the best place will be at zjm.marketing on Instagram. You can message me on there. My email is also zoe@zjm.marketing if you want to email me as well.
Cool. Amazing. Well, I'll put those details below the video. Like I said, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it, and best of luck for the future.